screen if you want to get started. If you have any questions for us before you begin, go ahead.
Have you started recording yet? Or yes, you have.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So I was just going to mention first that the LibreTexts splits off statistics into a different library. So
Okay.
the statistics LibreText library, and then there's the math LibreText library where linear algebra, calculus, algebra, all those courses, differential equations, and so forth are housed. That's the one I'm curator over, although I can log into the stats library. I'm not certain. I think I might have admin rights there. I just don't go there very often. So I think Larry Green, who you might be familiar with, is
he's wonderful.
He's a curator on that. And of course, Delmark is over everything and is everywhere and can do anything. I don't know. So, all right. So I've done some extra playing around in the last day or so, trying to see what else could be done with WeBWorK. And of course, that's the second stage of what you want to hear. So that's certainly part of what I can go into, though. It's certainly a great tool for incorporating problems in a formative way to help students play with concepts and check their understanding. And so I think I'm excited about using it that way myself. I'm not yet sure I want to disengage from my regular WeBWorK place of putting problems for the graded. So I'm still trying to decide on that one, but we'll talk about that later. So what I wanted to start with, maybe share my screen here and maybe see what I'm sharing before I do. Since I teach remotely now all the time. Okay, that's good. End up sharing my email sometimes, right? All right. So maybe before I jump into this, let me just go to the home screen in LibreText in the math library. There's several things here, some of which is unique to me being logged in. So since I'm logged in, you see a bar up at the top that has options like edit, new, downloads might be there more often, but Remixer, that's something you have to be logged in generally to get to, although there might be a Remixer available for others. Options for the page, we'll talk a little bit about that. Since I'm admin, I have site tools, and then here's just the login, log out options there. Okay, so this is the main math LibreText area. And when I'm logged in, I see more than what I would without being logged in. I think I see the bottom items that wouldn't be there. Being admin, I can see all the sandboxes where new users, new professors, instructors would work initially. But the campus bookshelves, that's where I have my books for Monroe Community College where I teach. And I can show you those in a moment. The bookshelves are where the source materials are. So any new content, OER books, or if you create your own content, we encourage you to help coordinate to get that content housed in the bookshelves. And then from the bookshelves, we pull out, we call it transcluding in the LibreText environment. Essentially, we're linking and customizing the books to have our own section numbers, chapter numbers incorporated and make it look just like it's part of our book, but it's still linked to the source material. So if someone fixes a typo in the source, it gets fixed in our book as well. Then if we want to customize, we'll have the ability to then fork that page a section at a time or even a subsection at a time and customize it, make it say what we want it to say. And I did some of that actually last night with an algebra section on compound inequalities. So I might show that later just to show what I did with it. So first off, let me just show you the campus bookshelves and what that looks like. You guys may already have one. I've not actually checked, but lists all of these here. So there's BMCC anyway, maybe different ones for different colleges there that might have set something up. I know Peggy Dean set one up there. So anyway, under Monroe Community College, we have a number of books, one of which Judy Dean helped set up, several actually, she set up, Peggy's sister. And there's one actually that I guess is from BMCC that's on our site, probably not visible. You can set the permissions and the viewing level on these books as well while you're working on them. So the 098 elementary algebra is one I'm using right now and continuing to customize. Intermediate algebra I used last semester. We haven't yet used these elementary algebra books. I think they're not really full scale. They were just someone starting at my college, not visible generally. 165, our college algebra class with 175 pre-calculus. That's a book one of my colleagues is working on. There's 2 Calc 1s right now. That's because this was Judy's and this one's mine. This is the one I think is most up to date. I've corrected a lot of typos and got it looking pretty good. Calc 2 I'm using this semester. Calc 3 I'm using this semester. These are OpenStax books, mostly Calc 1, 2, 3. And then I've customized, brought in some material from some of the other books, Apex, and forget if I've used 1 or 2 others, perhaps 2. So just pulled in material and places I thought it was helpful. And the differential equations, I'm using this semester for one of the books I use in the course, the Trench differential equations book. So many of these are customized, and I think this one, Trench, is very minimally changed, if at all. So I just have to think about it as I have time. But let me show you the Calc 1 honors. It's really mostly what I would use in Calc 1 as well. It just has a couple of extra sections. So you can see the page with the various chapters on it. But more often what I do is use the contents either here or on this new sidebar. Either one will give you the same basic listing. I think in this book, I've added my own material in the appendices, added some trig identities, review derivative rules, table of derivatives. I think the table of integrals I added to the full book, but I think that's the case. Within derivative applications, I think I added some things having to do with parametric equations and derivatives of parametric equations. So that was material I added in from a different area in the book and sort of just moved around and put it where I wanted it to be, and I include here. So you get to sort of pick and choose what you want and where you want it to show up. Limits and infinity and asymptotes actually moved back to my limits chapter, but I still have a little bit of material here. I want to change the name to deal with the focus I have in chapter 4 for that material. Anyway, just a quick overview of one of the books I customized. Let me go to the book or the home and then show you the bookshelves that are where the source material is. They keep changing the name of these, by the way, trying to improve them. I think it used to just say courses here and bookshelves here. So now when I see bookshelves here, it catches me off guard for a moment. But the bookshelves here are the source bookshelves, and Delmar is playing with ideas for renaming that. He thought about calling it the stacks. I wasn't sure that sounded very inviting, but anyway, that's where the source documents are. So you can see here various topics that we've divided the books into. A lot of different OER books represented, some of which are in various need of repair, need of fixing of some of the formatting when they've been imported. Calculus OpenStax is getting better and better. I've got a whole nice list of typos from a colleague that I need to go through and fix to continue to improve that. So within, let's see, linear algebra, I know is a question, right? So you probably already looked at these, but this is where we'd go to look at the source material that's available now. Supplemental modules may be material that people like Larry Green might have added in. And if you come up with your own materials, if it's small, like a chapter, you could put it in the supplemental modules area and you'd be an author on that and you have that in there. If it's a whole book, this is where we put it into this area and have it be the book with the author names and where it's coming from. And so you could pick a book and then take a look at what's there. And I have not looked at these linear algebra books myself much because I have not taught that course. But this is where you could click on it. We could click into one of them and see what is here. It has pictures that might have come from the book, might be generated by whoever generated this book, this version of it in LibreTexts. But then you could see what's there. The idea, I guess, of customizing your own version of a book is to find either one of these you want to use as your core, or find material from each of these books that you want to pull into your custom book, what we call a remix. And then, of course, planning what you might want to add of your own that you can't find anywhere. And so that's basically what you want to do before you remix. And then once you're ready to remix, go ahead.
I'm sorry. So Paul, we've been talking to kind of Delmar about this. The book that we like was actually recommended by Peggy Deem, Nicholson for linear algebra, but it's a lyrics book. So Giancarlo, who's leading up the linear algebra team, he reached out to the author to say, can you share your LaTeX source
Okay.
with us? Because Delmar said if I ask, for sure he'll shut it down. So maybe
Yeah.
you ask and see if you can get the source code. And he said, oh, I'm still working on it. Maybe another time I'll share it with you. So now Delmar's saying now we've got to import it. We've got to get the harvesters to import it, which will take longer.
Yeah.
So I guess so for on the linear algebra end, I guess we can't start remixing until that import happens, correct?
Well, I mean, you can start to create something if you have some material here that you can begin with, or you have some of your own
Okay.
material that you want to put
Okay.
in.
Yeah.
But it's ideal if the book that you want to use is
Is in there.
at least ready to be imported. I mean,
Got it.
you can actually, with a bit more work, import a book without a terrible large amount of it's not that hard. It takes time. Okay.
Okay.
Essentially, you have to format the LaTeX depending on how the copy paste process goes. And there are tools like MathPix, which you may be familiar with, that you can use to take a photo either on your screen or
Yeah.
on a paper, and it will produce the LaTeX if you need that to make it go quickly.
That's a good idea. Let me write this down. I'm going to put it in the chat for everyone. MathPix, Pix.
Yep.
Correct. Okay, so MathPix. Okay, so I guess what we need to do on the linear algebra end, we need to circle back with Delmar and see if this process has started already for the Nicholson book. If not, maybe we can try to, just to move it more quickly, try to ping the author one last time. And if they really won't share their source code, then we can start with the MathPix and try to start pulling it if we have to. But yeah. Okay. Good to know. Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome. Yeah, I was just going to pull into one of my books. I don't even remember now. I just wanted to have it available. There was something I was going to show, but I know what it was. I was just going to go back to see what it almost seems like Peggy, or not Peggy, but Judy Dean had put something together here. She had discrete math. Maybe I'm just remembering that. Yeah, she doesn't have linear on here yet. Okay, I'm sorry. That's what I was thinking about, is whether she had a linear on there. So that's a course I've not thought much about yet. So this will be great to get you guys developing a good resource for that course. But again, it's going to be an interesting effort. Might require more work than if you already liked what's there. So is there another book that you have interest in potentially remixing to have it be a part of the demo, or I could just show a demo with linear algebra or calculus or whichever?
We were thinking of, so the stats team, and again, you said you may or may not have access to the stats side, admin access. The stats team, we've been looking at Open Intro, the bio stats, Open Intro, just the straight stats. We've been looking at OpenStax as well. Those are the three that we're looking at. Ezra, were there any others? Or Victor, I'm trying to remember from our meeting if we had any other that we might want to see.
Those are the particular ones. I had looked into a few others, but that's sort of in the beginning stages.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so those are the three we're looking at on the stats end that we would be pulling from.
All right, let's see. I'm going to try to log into stats and see how it works for me. This is on the fly experimentation. All right, so I'm logged in. I don't seem to have quite as much clearance here. So I can use the remixer though. This might be a good place to demo it. We'll see how it works. I'm used to doing it in the math area, but this will be a new experience. So once you have access to LibreTexts, in other words, you have a login, which you can apply for one here where it's going to give you a chance to request a login. Or I think I've already given you, Mariana, and I gave Andrew one as well. So I can set them up with higher permission levels. So let me click on the remixer, and it won't let us tour the books, but it will let us see what books are available and show you sort of the process that would be used to create a book. So there's a lot to this process, and it's been presented on before. It is a moving target. It keeps getting improved. So that's going to be part of the process here. I need to actually move this so I can see my screen better. There we go. All right, so When you enter the remix page, there are a couple of options you need to think about. One is if you have a name for the textbook, you can put that here. So I may just call this a demo stats remix, but you'd call this maybe your math, 145 statistics 2 or whatever you're going to call it. So that would be a place for you to put that name, and you could even put the specific professor if you had variance in how you wanted to, what material you want included in the books. So I would recommend starting with a core book that you developed, but as people have maybe different things that they might want to include in their book, you'd have that option to create different versions and custom versions where almost all of it is drawing from the same linked version. Updates would then populate out to those subversions. Now, another thing you've got to think about before we get started is whether or not you want the sections auto-numbered starting at 1, or if you want to have more flexibility. So, for example, my Calc 3 class, I don't have it use auto-number because I actually want the chapters to start at chapter 11. So, that is something useful for me. So that's one place I turn this off. But there are also times I might turn it off after I've already begun working on something. Maybe I don't want it to auto change some numbers that I've already played with and set. So we'll leave it on for now, and it will just automatically put things in order. But that is something that you might not need to think about. There are some options you can set here. I think some of these are automatically set up when we start new too, if we were to use a start over. But right now it's initial chapter number 1, initial topic number 1. I don't really know what the guide depth is, but these are the two that we typically use. So there was one book I needed to start the initial topic number at 0 because it had this little preview page. And so that's one of the options I've made use of here. We'll leave it alone for now. Come down to the campus bookshelves. It's got a demo stats remix in here, which has a lot of stuff in it. I'm actually going to restart that because I don't want any demo chapters here. That would be great if you, sort of wanted to put some things into your own named chapters. But if you want to pull whole chapters over or even a whole book over, I don't like to have that stuff sitting there because I'll have to delete it later anyway. So I'm going to start over. The default is 0 chapters in the new remix with 0 pages per chapter. So there are all these default pages there that you're going to maybe fill in with your own material. So I'm going to do that now to start over. It now has back matter and front matter there by default. I'd have to ask Delmar whether you can change this. I'm assuming you just want to leave them there because they'll be put in later anyway. So now we look at either campus bookshelves to copy a book that you like, that someone else is using. It might be customized from the original texts that are in the bookshelves. Or if we don't know about that, we might just go to the bookshelves and pick a book there. So of these, do you remember which area your book you're looking at is? Anybody looked at it enough to know?
Maybe intro stats.
Okay, and you know the author? Is it OpenStax?
OpenStax, yeah, that's one of them.
Okay, so then you get to choose whether you want the whole book or whether you'd want to pick chapter by chapter.
Got it.
Okay,
yeah,
so
awesome.
Any preference on which way you want to go for the demo?
Just take chapter 1. Let's go for that.
Okay, if I take chapter 1, I drag it over. Probably I'm going to put it between front matter and back matter, but I don't think it matters too much. And it throws that in there. And then we could pull in another chapter. I mean, we don't have to put these in order. And we could put it after chapter 1 and you'd get it. It would renumber it, hopefully. Yep, there it goes. Because the auto numbering is turned on. And so then you'd have your subsections. They're automatically chapter 2. And you could remove those if you wanted to. You could pick one and pull it out. Or you could add something from another book in there. That's what I've done for compound inequalities, for example, in my elementary algebra class, which my college, my department chose to put it there. I still think it should really be an intermediate algebra, but anyways, that's really where the books have it. And so I had to pull that topic in. Now, if you pull a whole book in, there's actually a benefit because it's really quick. So if I just maybe delete that out of there and delete this out of there, if I pull this whole book over, I put it above the top of the remix, it'll actually ask if I want to merge the title. So I want to merge with the cover page. So I will do that. And it should just immediately make the new book, the whole thing. Now it's just basically making a copy of the book in the source bookshelves. It's called transcluding. Each page will be a mirror of the original book, but then it will allow you to move things around, renumber things without affecting the original book. You can add your own material on subsections, even within a page. There are ways of doing that. So it really is sort of a cool way to customize a book, leaving most of it linked to the original source material. Now notice it did rename the book. So I would need to come back up here, put the name I want it to have in here again if I did it this way. I think that's a new update because I think it used to keep the old name.
So Paul, can you do me a favor? Can you look and see if, do you have open intro stats in here in your library?
You mean in terms of a different book?
Yeah. If we
right.
wanted to, because what we were talking about is maybe kind of doing a merge.
Right here?
So yeah. Yeah, they have it. Okay, this is great. Guys, we're in business. What we want is already in there. So this just makes our lives so much easier. This
Now,
is great.
what state it's in, it depends on how much love it's gotten from the people who have worked with it.
True. Okay. It's fantastic.
One way or another, it would be wonderful to have people who want to take care of it and help, you know, fix any typos and errors that came in with the conversion and so forth.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And so should we find bugs and typos, how do we report those back?
well, there's a couple of different ways that this can be handled. My hope is that eventually some of you will become comfortable enough that you can begin to fix them in the source book, and you know, respecting the fact that what we try to do there is make editorial decisions, but mostly fix typos and, you know, maybe clear up things that are unclear, standardized notation, things of that sort, without changing, like adding paragraphs and adding, you know, redoing the whole way something is presented. We try to do that in our customizations, but I'm assuming you guys are all going to understand that. And
Well,
that
I can't put a picture of my dog in the middle of a chapter. What are you talking about?
You can do that to your custom version without any problems.
Okay, got it. Just don't mess with the root. Don't put my dog in the root.
Yeah, and if you're worried about making mistakes, it is actually easy to undo changes as long as it's you know, we can brought to our attention so we can sort of figure out when it happened. But pretty easy to fix those typos, and ideally you'd begin to fix them in the source.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Would trickle out to everybody using the book.
Yeah, I think that's a great feature. I think definitely this is wonderful. Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, so the next step, once you find what sections you want, and it looks like you might want to pull in sections from both these books and sort of make your own adventure here. Once you have the book together, we're going to be able to save it to the server. And so this is where we click next. And let's see, it's going to show us the number of pages that are involved. There are going to be some new pages created because you're going to have your own custom cover page, your own custom chapter pages. Those will be actually generated. It may not say them all here, but you will actually have some new pages generated that you'll have full control over. And every page that you have, you actually have full control over. You can add material to the bottom of a transcluded page, add material to the bottom or the top without affecting the link. And there are ways of pulling that material in subsection by subsection if you decide you want to just edit a portion of a page and keep the rest of it linked. A little bit more advanced topic, but certainly something we can do.
So here's a question for you. We were talking about potentially kind of authoring a section together and doing it in LaTeX. Mm-hmm. Can we then take the PDF, or is there a way for us to pull up either a PDF or a LaTeX source code into a book? How do we merge that if we want to do some custom content?
Well, I'll show you that in a moment. That actually is a really important component of what you want to see here. So
perfect.
Let me just first save this to the server, and that'll take a minute. So we may not stay here the whole time. Depends. So it says just 1 minute for this book. It's a little bit easier than the Calc 1 book was. Oh, it's up to 4 minutes. I don't know how long it would take, but either way, it's creating a couple new pages here for our version of the book. Forked pages are the ones that are copied over or transcluded I'm not sure. Oh, forked pages are actually those that are new versions of those pages. So they're probably the chapter heading, yeah, for each of these. So they are linking from the original, but you can then add your own stuff to those pages, and they're really your own to do with. All right, so while that is working, let me go to a new sheet here and show you what you would do to edit or add our own content. So if you want to add your own subsection, ideally you're going to convert it to the LibreText page format, because that'll allow it to look the same. It'll allow it to really be very versatile, better than just a PDF. So what we do is we go to maybe our chapter heading. And if you want to add a new full page or section to the chapter, we come here. If you want just a subsection to a particular section, that would be done within a page there that we have. So we have the various pages here. We have 2.1. The exercises are actually added as a page inside this page, which makes them look a little bit smaller. And they show up real nice on the table of contents here as a sub page. So there's a sort of a trick to doing that. But we could add a new page here just for practice. I'll have to just remember to get rid of it. Maybe I'll make it to 9. So I'd come up to option, actually to new, sorry. Add a new page. And right now there's just one choice. If we're farther up, there are more choices for a book or for a chapter. But here we're just adding a page. So I click on that. In this one situation, when you click on that, it actually generates it. Usually you have to click create or whatnot there. Now what I do, and this is one of the tricks to the trade here, when you're adding a section in this environment, it adds some tags here that you want to keep there for the first stage. So what I would do is just add the title, which I recommend having a number first, colon, and then whatever you want to call it. So demo section. Will for sure get my attention to get rid of it. So what I want to do now, before I add content, the first time I create it, I want to save this. That'll save the tags and allow them to be set without me trying to figure out why I can't see my section in the book. It sets a few flags that otherwise you have to find them up here in the page settings. So now it's ready to go in and edit again. If we just want to change the name of the section, you can do that here and change the name. You can also change the way it's ordered by forcing a certain alphabetical numbering here if things aren't going the way you want them to. Sometimes we have to go with 2.09 or 2 under 2.09 here to make it all line up when to get to 10 and so forth. Anyways, that was we can do that later. But here we edit the page again. You notice those template information is not there anymore. It was already processed. This is where we could begin to add our content. So, this is a demo section showing how to add one. Okay, and then we could, type in any math we want. In this case, we're using MathJax or LaTeX. It's a subset of LaTeX. So we could put in inline math. So let's see, the equation y equals x squared plus 5 is quadratic. And then we could put something down here that's maybe display mathematics. So in that case, I guess we could put an integral in 0 to 1 of x squared. And then I'm going to put in a spacer before the dx and then close it out. So this would be just a little bit of math, but it can be typed within this word processor format, which makes it really easy to work with, easy to paste into from even a PDF. The only issue then is your math has to be fixed. So let me save it. We'll just see what it looks like here. So you can see the inline math displays nicely. And this is our display math, which is centered and automatically given a number. If we want to suppress that, which I probably would want to suppress on something that's not a main equation, we could do that easily by putting the no number. I'm blanking what to call this. What are these called? Tags on there, elements on there. Okay, so that would force it to suppress the numbering. If you want to actually refer to an equation, you can use a label. tag and a ref tag later on. So we could do that. So no number would have taken it away. Label keeps it, but allows us to refer to it in our text further on. So I'll keep it there. And then down here, we'll say in equation, and I'll put ref 1. We see, I don't know, beauty. So then save that. And
So this is exactly the way LaTeX works. When you type in LaTeX, it uses the same, references, labeling. What about if we wanted to do like a citation? Like, what if we want to build an index? Do we also add? Can we build index or not yet?
I don't think index has been really fully worked out yet. That would be a
Okay.
wonderful thing to work with Delmar on. They are working on that kind of thing, and
Yeah.
he would have much more information on what the current
Okay.
status of indexing is.
Okay, awesome. Good to know.
Yeah, so I mean, I've given you a real quick show of what to do here. Let me let's go back a section here. And I guess just one section back would be exercises. I'm gonna go back to the one before that, because that's what I just worked on. So this is an exercise set from, I think Arnold is the author of this basic algebra or intermediate algebra. He had both book, but this is one way to organize the exercises with these sort of null type of answers that are there that you can display when you're done trying the problem. You probably are all familiar with this, but that's what's there. And it's easy to copy and paste this formatting or to get into the HTML and see that to work with it as you continue to add new answers to new problems and so forth. Or to fix answer exercise sets that don't have this formatting in them. Some of them are just going to have the exercise and they'll have the answer right there. It won't already be set out in this nice format so that it doesn't, it's not active or dynamic. It would just be there statically. And of course, our goal, as you guys have been talking about, is to get these in as like WeBWorK problems. So that would be the other thing we want to consider here. We can go there next. I'm just trying to think what else I'm leaving out that I want to be sure to mention. Let me just show a full page here, edited. So I'm going to edit this one. And then I'll edit the page just before it. So you see the regular exposition. So here I've tended to make the instructions bold, and then I don't usually use these boxes, but the boxes make this sort of look nice, and it's at least consistent with the other sections in this book currently. I usually just do number 1 and number 2 and number 3 and just type them out. But you can add a box if you come up here, and we're going to talk about this in a moment with the WeBWorK problems, but they're under elements and templates. And so there's a lot of different templates that are going to be useful. The adapt template is one I'm still learning about. It's the one to insert a graded problem from the adapt gradebook, which gives us one way of having gradable problems in one of these pages or in these books. But there's various options there. There's, let's see, the box adapt, which has a box around it. We're going to look at, well, box exercise is here. That's what we have used in our exercise set I'm just showing you. There are box examples I use in my exposition, box definitions that have a little different coloring, but set things off nicely. If you have code in something, if you've got programming of some sort, that would be what that would be for. There's notes, interactives, theorems, and then down at the bottom, we've got a box for query WeBWorK. We're going to look at that. It's pretty nice, actually. It allows you to just paste in the library code from the OPL, and that's a really quick way to generate WeBWorK problems in a formative way, at least. So we'll look at that in a moment. But first, let's just put in an exercise. Yeah.
Quick question. Can you also pull problems from Contrib or only OPL problems?
I think the way they've got it set, do you know if you can use Contrib in your directly? Is Contrib always part of the library that you can access with a reference in?
It is. Yeah,
It is.
as long as the daemon course that's set up on the WeBWorK server that's supporting this, as long as it has a symbolic link to Contrib, then yes. Which
Great.
I do believe Mike Gage has set up for LibreText. So I
Excellent.
would imagine the answer to that would be yes.
Yeah. So that's great.
Perfect.
I'm learning something new, actually.
Perfect.
So that's,
I'm so
that's
glad.
cool.
And I'm asking you this because it may get around if we're holding on to private content without having to fuss. If we can push that private content to contrib, then we can just use it.
Yeah.
And we're encouraging everyone to share back anyway with the community. So this kind of
Yeah.
gives us a way of around it. If we are holding on to things locally,
Yeah.
we'll push it out there. So this is fantastic. Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome. So notice what gets generated here for the exercise. It automatically puts in a page index, which would basically take the section number and put it before it. So here it'd be 2.8E.1, which I find a bit wordy for exercises. So I got rid of it and just made it exercise 1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth. So anyway, it gives you that. We use these in the middle of exposition as well. So that's the other place they're used. I'm going to cancel out of this because I don't want to save that. And go to the previous section. Once it gets there, there's a lot of details that I present in like a 4-hour mini course I did at Joint Math, and I'm proposing one for the summer whenever they agree to have me do it. So Joint Math had already agreed for me to do a LibreTexts mini course at Joint Math 2021, and of course everything changed, and I volunteered to do it as a webinar. Anyways, so this is a page I just edited yesterday, pieced together and added my own content at the top, basically the component inequalities. So if I edit this, it actually is all completely just copied and pasted, forked over, no longer linked. So I'll show you what it looks like when it's transcluded in a moment. But here you've got my content at the top. And then I reworded this. It said union and intersection before. Since intersection was first, I changed it to be the way I thought it should be. And then I changed certain things about the notation. I think the book Arnold uses a colon here for the such that. I liked the vertical bar, so I replaced that throughout. And then I actually added in a picture from, oh, where is it? It's down here. There it is. A picture from the OpenStax Intermediate Algebra book, and a little bit of text around that. So that I just felt like it went with the flow. I was able to sort of throw it together and did a lot of other things further down, but this is mostly just what it looks like. The pictures, you can edit these. Some of these need to have alt tags added. I think this book is one that does. So there's a lot of work that's been done already to fix that, but it is something that's still in need of love and care.
Another question. What about Tixie? What if I want to draw my own picture in here? Does this use Tixie?
I don't think that's yet possible, but that's a great thing to ask, because I had asked about it once a long time ago, and I only had dabbled with it. So I'm not really it's not as desperate a need for me, but I was really interested in getting my own ability to draw these. So if you have a way to do that, I would love to learn.
Yeah, I can show you how to draw these things with Tixie. I mean, I know how to do all of this in LaTeX. So that's why I'm asking the question, because theoretically, anything that we do in LaTeX, we should be able to do here. So if you could support that, that would be fantastic. You know, the thought I have is, you know, suppose I want to create this automata diagram. Suppose I want to do for my discrete structure students, right? And I give them things like the lamplight or walking on it, you know, an infinite road. And I have these things, I know how to draw them in Tixie, but I wouldn't know how to do it here. I could import theoretically a snapshot of my PDF, which is what I've done before to share things with them, but I would much rather build it within here. I think it would look a lot better, like typesetting wise. So, you know, that's something I guess we can talk to Delmar about, but definitely Tixie support would be great.
And Henry Agnew is sort of the guru right now on the technology side. So Henry Agnew, if you've seen him show up.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
So definitely ask him about it. I would love to get that
him.
working. I know there was a time a year or two ago that I was working on trying to see if we could get it to work. He even looked at it, and at the time it sounded like it was not going anywhere fast.
Okay.
So I would love to have more people motivating him. And
got it. I'll talk to him. I could even send him. I have an assignment that I just wrote in LaTeX that has like an automata and and a road and a bunch of Tixie pictures. I could just send those pieces to him and be like,
perfect.
See if you can get this to work in LibreTexts, and if you can, if challenge accepted, let's see what comes of it. But that would be really cool. Henry's amazing. So
that would be very cool.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Paul.
Yes, let me know what happens, even if you want to copy me in. All right, so The next is to look at how to put the WeBWorK problems into these sections. So divergence in curl is the section I chose to add it to. Just it's the end of my book, and it was a place that I just had a few problems that I thought would be cool to throw in there. I also designed an H5P problem in a workshop that I went to, and it was for this section. So I thought that was where I'd start playing with it. So currently, this is actually a transcluded page that I've added material at the bottom of, and it's down here at the check your understanding level. I'll show you what they look like. So there's different types. The first types I've got here are actually coming from my server. So they could be, I don't think these are, but they could be custom problems from my server that I would then be able to serve up on the pages in a formative way and have them evaluated and so forth. They look more like a regular WeBWorK problem in terms of the buttons and so forth than they will when they get served up in other ways. So here are a couple of them. And then here's my H5P problem. So it's just served up here in a template that you can add for H5P problems. There is a way to add it from a general query area too, but that's something further down here. So that's that problem. You can just enter the answers, check, it'll give feedback, H5P type stuff. Okay, this problem was added using the, forget which is which here. I think this one I added using the library reference. So I found the library reference using the OPL and my WeBWorK server, in a course. And I just copied and pasted that in, and I'll show you what that looks like in a moment. But it brought the problem right in, what I was looking at, and students can try it and not yet try a new version of it. I just requested that last night because I think that would be ideal to have here is, try a new version of the problem. And then this
Paul,
one, go ahead.
I'm just noticing a difference between the formats of your two WeBWorK problems.
Yeah.
The first one has show correct answers and the second one does not.
That's interesting. Let's see. So this one has check answers and preview answers. Yeah. And the ones up here, definitely, yeah, the styling is different because this one's using HTML code that Mike Gage shared with me, and it's actually leveraging the server on the University of Rochester's site and their infrastructure, WeBWorK 2 and so forth.
Yeah.
And I also see footer information here that
exactly. I was saying the same. I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, is this because this is pulling from your local server and the other one is just drawing straight from the OPL, and that's why the formatting is slightly different, and some has footer information, some doesn't.
That's right. That's right. And I mean, I think, I don't know what you'd prefer, but I'd prefer not to have this here. But it shows where it's coming from, right? The Seeberger course, which is a sort of a daemon course I've got there on that server just to do this. But further down, you get to see what it looks like when it's served directly from the WeBWorK server, the LibreTexts WeBWorK server, using their query styling. And again, it does not have that show correct answer. We can ask for that if that's what we want to have, or if there's a way to just have a flag that we can set when we edit. It'd be nice to have that ability even to be able to control what's visible here. And then down here, this one I think I added from the query library. I'll show you that in a moment here too. So very similar in terms of how it displays though. And here, these are actually the rotatable problems from WeBWorK. Not my CalPlot 3D, but still cool.
So Paul, you were saying something about having the students redo the problem. So did you have to enable show me another somehow on the back end?
The show me another is not yet available on these problems. That's what I just, again, was emailing today, is like noticing it's not there and how natural it would be to have that. In fact, how natural it is to expect that would be there.
Show me another. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think that should be just kind of by default, right? Because if you're using it formatively, there's no reason why you shouldn't have the students to show me another. Yeah,
I think Delmar had a misunderstanding that you needed to have, what is that called when you have a bunch of problems together? Pooling. I think he thought that you had to have pooling working, which is a bigger problem for them to figure out. I thought that would be great to work on, but really more importantly is just the ability to randomize or produce a random seed from the timer. It's really easy to do. And if you want to, you can create WeBWorK problems that have quite a bit of variability in them. So he was like, oh, that's nice to hear. So anyway, so let me show you how to edit this. I'm just going to go up above this. So I'm clicking on the regular part of the page and I'll click Control E. That'll automatically do the edit feature. And let's see. Okay, so let me go to the top here. The content reuse here is the link to the source section. Can't hardly read this perhaps, but it says text maps, calculus text maps, etc. OpenStax, chapter 16, 16.5. So this is where it's coming from. We can actually add a section or a subsection using the elements and content reuse option. So that's something else I should show you at some point if we have time, but first we need to finish this. So down below this, I added this check your understanding below the regular content of the page. And then I added these, which you'll have to look at the HTML5 HTML code for in a moment. Down here, these are easier. These were added with the query, the template. So let me show you how those are added. I'll just put one in here. Looking for a place for it to add. There's a place I could add one. So if I come up here to, oh, this is in the way. Wonderful thing of Zoom, trying to have the controls out of the way. All right, so on the templates, we can pick one of a couple of things. One of the ways we can add a problem is with a box query. But if we do that, we have to find the query ID for the problem in the query library. I'll show you that in a moment. It's not quite as natural for me to use, so I want to show you this one first, the query WeBWorK. So if we add that and insert, let's see, that one just showed up down here. So automatically it's going to have problem 1, and so you have to actually change those by hand. Ideally someday it would reorder those and actually automatically do something. But here you can change this code here to be a library address for a problem. I'm assuming from what you said, you could also use the contrib address and put it in here. And that's sort of cool. That's what I did for one of these problems. Let's see, this one. Okay, this is a query problem. I have the address ID here, 12379, which is that 3D problem with the rotatable graphs. I had to go to the query page and find it. That's not as easy as going to the library page, which I did for this one, and pasted in the library address. Now, the H5P one is more interesting. You have to know the ID of the H5P problem. You can use the query code to do that, or you can create your own H5P problems and gain access to add them in there or send them to Henry or me, and then get the number for it. And then you'd be able to put that tag in there after you inserted a H5P query problem using the template that's above.
So Paul, how do you search the H5P repository?
The H5P repository, I'm not certain the current ability to search it directly, but you can search it in the query library. So let me go there next. Okay. And let's see if I brought that up here. I had it on my other computer, but it was so slow that I figured I needed to actually come over here. Let me just come over here and search it. So I'm going to put query LibreTexts. Actually, what was there was great. WeBWorK LibreText. It can be backed up to get to the H5P. So I actually don't yet have a link to it because I've not used it much yet myself. So let's see, this is the WeBWorK assignments. Let me just go out to the community gallery. So here you can see H5P assessments. So on here is where you could tour what's there, although it's not displayed in a way that's very easy to see a bunch at a time. You have to sort of find them by name and then click on each one individually, one at a time. I asked for a more visual presentation, but I think that might be available in Adapt. Adapt has, I think, a little bit more visual GUI that you can maybe explore what's here much more quickly. I have to look to see the current status, but I think I saw them doing that there. But just clicking on that, you can see right now, the only thing in there is Spanish. So they haven't made my problem available here, apparently. Going back over here, the WeBWorK assessments, you'll see them organized by essentially the library organization. So whatever you've got at the top of the problem, so calculus, multivariable or linear algebra, whatever you want to pick. I picked the multivariable because that's where I'm at for the page we were looking at.
So this is the OPL taxonomy, what you have here,
Yes.
just represented visually.
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
So it's pretty easy to find a collection of problems and then click on one at a time to see what's there. And so, you could pick, parameterized curves and we could go in and see, oh, all these problems, but we don't see them. We have to actually click on each one to see what it looks like. But, it does allow that to be done without someone having to have a WeBWorK server to look up the problems. Okay, we all have that, so that's probably a little easier, but this does give another option, especially if we want to use problems from something other than WeBWorK. And there are some other libraries being added in addition to the ones that are there now. So this is where you get the page ID, by the way. This little 11119, you just copy that and we'd paste it into the other location. So that would be, let's see, the ID that was down on this one. That's where I'd paste that number right in here. And that would then bring that problem up. All right, so this is a quick way to bring these problems in, a couple different ways. Let me show you the HTML for these two in case you're interested in bringing custom problems in. And you can actually put those inside of the query box too, using the HTML. So on here, there's not a lot on the page because of all the reuse stuff. That's really all there is to it. The part that we're using is right here. And let me make it bigger. I don't know really how it appears on your screens. Zoom is pretty good about this stuff. But all right, so you can see here the div for the iframe. This is one problem. And it's something I just copied and pasted and then edited my own information into. It includes the library address for my problem. I think the ampersand is after it. It's between. So I just had to paste that in here. And then I also had to use my server and this sort of ending on there that allows all this to connect. Essentially, it's one link, I guess, with a query string. Password, I had to set that up, a user ID named, I called it Damon and password Damon on the Seaburger course. And then you have to set a seed. That's where, again, it'd be nice to be able to randomize that seed or allow another to be shown. That's something I guess I could ask Mike Gage about, see if we could at least display that option on here somehow to show another with this approach. But that's code I could copy and paste and send to you. Or you could, once you have editor access, find it on this page. But so what questions do you have? What would you like to see that I haven't shown yet? I know the time is limited and it's 4 o'clock, so.
So I guess I'm just trying to understand the pros and cons of the two approaches. One, you're making a call to your server, and that's passing the WeBWorK problem from your server into the LibreText for the students to see and try, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then the other way, you're just making a call to the library or contrib, and it's showing, and it's from the LibreText server. The
Correct.
LibreText houses contrib in the library, and it's making a call to the LibreText server. So those are the two options. So if we wanted to pass everything from our dev server, our City Tech dev server, we could do it that way. We can make that allowance where it's calling our dev server. This way, if we make changes to whatever problem, say we have private content and we need to make changes to the problems there, those changes will be reflected automatically in the LibreText. Is that correct?
That is correct. And
Okay.
the nice thing about it is it would allow you to use custom problems.
Got it.
And so if you use just problems from your contrib, which happens to be the version that's on the LibreText server, you're fine, right? Or if you're just using OPL problems or a mixture of those, it's pretty easy to put those problems in. But at least the way I envision myself using formative problems, I would probably want to be designing the problems as I incorporated them into the sections. And I'm probably going to do a lot of customization. So for me, it seems like I need a way to customize those problems. There may be a way we can work with Henry and those that are working with him to allow access to those problems on the WeBWorK server on the LibreText server. So, that might be a way to leverage sort of the best of both worlds. But again, I'm not certain yet, as I have not dabbled or really pushed too hard yet to do that. I did ask a number of questions today to ask, for things I'd like to see. One of them is a way to somehow leverage a WeBWorK course so that I don't have to use the Adapt course gradebook for a class if possible. It's just because I like the students' ability to just click a email professor and ask me questions, and I can click my email link and see their problem. I would like that feature. He's probably going to want to put it into Adapt, but we'll see see how things work and what's the best of the different options for what each of us is comfortable with and wanting to use. What other
Thank you, Paul.
questions?
Drew, do you have questions? Anybody else have questions?
No, I mean, I have some answers.
That's always helpful.
Well, I mean, in the sense that I'm going to be meeting with Henry to talk about the ways in which they're rendering their problems and how to deal with editable content so that it's not reliant on a single WeBWorK server. Though, Paul, you can always keep doing the raw iframe embedding that points to a specific web server.
Mm-hmm.
That might be possible. I mean, LibreTexts would have to do some more work to incorporate some kind of user transmission along with the student response to keep the grade in your WeBWorK server.
Right. Even if I could put it on their WeBWorK server and have a course maintained on the LibreTexts server, that would work. It might be easier. So I'm not yet sure that it's the model I'm planning on, but it needs to be workable if I even want to consider it. So I'd like to at least have the ability to explore it. And I might use Adapt first, just to play with it for a semester, maybe with a basic algebra class or something, just to, see how it works. But I know how quick changes can overwhelm me with issues. Yeah. So even having MathQuill, as you might have seen from some of my forum posts. So MathQuill for the first time, I've got all sorts of new issues I've got to make sure I can address. So any other questions? Something that you'd like me to show how to do? Trying to remember what we mentioned earlier that I said I might be able to show later.
I think the biggest thing is just being able to take the WeBWorK problem path and use it to embed upon.
That's huge.
Because when you do that, you're not specifying a random seed. Is that correct?
That is correct, but it must generate one automatically, right? So
is it generating the same one for everyone? Or
good question. I guess you could take a look at these problems and see if they come up the same or not. But
because
on this page,
there's a they being LibreTexts, if LibreTexts is in charge of determining the random seed, there's no reason why you can't use the show me another on a problem.
Yeah. I mean, I think that shouldn't be hard. They mentioned that they thought they could do it when I asked today. So we will soon see. Here's a link to this page. So you can jump right to it and you can check and see if the problem is different or not. Put it in the chat there.
This is 15.5.2. Oh no, you linked to the page mid-edit.
Uh-oh. Did it not work?
Nope. It was just in rendering the page.
Okay, it takes a second to render.
I have the same version.
Okay, yeah, my guess is it might be a fixed value. But we could teach them to put in a timer value or something, because I think that's one of those.
The code you showed had a fixed value. I saw it. Like if you look at the code, the code has a seed that's set. Or was that for one of the other problems?
That was for these up here that were from my server.
Got it. Okay, those were from your server. Okay, so pulling from the OPL, it's not obvious whether the seed is
correct.
Got it.
But it looks like LibreText is setting a fixed value.
Okay.
Well, somewhere.
We can talk to Andy about that.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'd be willing to help with other phases of, I guess, learning the LibreText environment. There's a lot to process in one day, but
no, thank you so much, Paul. This was super helpful. I mean, we had some kind of basic questions coming into it because the stats team met on Wednesday and we said, okay, let's try collaborating on, one section so we have a unified voice. Let's see how we work together. Let's see if we agree on, having a certain format for the section. And we said, okay, we can do that in LaTeX. And then our question to you was, okay, if we do this custom content, how easy is it going to be to port over into a LibreText? So, okay, so I guess my follow-up would be, suppose we don't want to work in, LaTeX. Suppose we want to work directly in LibreText.
Yeah.
Is there a way we can have kind of share, the stats team share, I guess, have our
Work together.
accounts linked? Exactly. Collaboratively. How does that work?
There's a couple different aspects to it. I know right now, it's not quite as nice as Google Docs in that you can't easily edit it at the same time, the same page.
Okay.
But you could, divide and conquer and edit different pages and then come back and look at them and then edit it, recursively. Everyone can look at the pages, and just as long as it's at different moments, it'll tell you if someone's editing the page when you try to open it to edit it. So, I mean, that's one thing about it. They do have groups. I know Delmar put a group together for SUNY Geneseo, who's been working on calculus, customizing the OpenStax calculus for their courses. So, I think that that can be a helpful way to deal with it. He's tried to limit permissions in a way, especially when there's a large group working on something, so that you all have access to the book you're working on, but you might not have access, well, everyone might not have access to the whole bookshelves and so forth to edit there. So there is a way to make a group of that kind as well.
Wonderful. So I guess we have to ask Delmar to create the group for us. We would create our own separate accounts and then say to Delmar, we would like to form a group. We're going to work on this LibreText together, and then we'll be linked. And then the same for our linear algebra group.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yep. That would then have, depending on how he wants to work it, I'm guessing that would have permissions set up automatically to be over a certain area, probably a certain sandbox that would be shared. And then you could all then access that easily and build the book together. Now, what I end up doing, honestly, is I move my book directly to the campus hub, campus, bookshelves, and I just edit it right there where it's ready to display to students. So that is another alternative, but you might need to talk to him about what he would like to see done with a large group of people working on it. I think it's probably doable. We would just have to set permissions for everybody to have access and edit permissions for that campus hub, whatever you want to call it. CUNY, if you want just a CUNY hub folder or whatnot.
Okay, so you're thinking layer. Sorry, go ahead, Victor.
I just say we're not that large a group.
Yeah, if it's not a very large group and you're all
Handful.
Yeah, it may be possible to just, especially if all of you are interested in fixing typos in the source, I'm very much on board with getting all of you more permissions. But I guess the first layer is just to get in there and begin to play with it. And then we'll up those permissions as you guys, become proficient and confident and, desire to do that.
Excellent.
So I wanted to show you this
you.
book that was generated. We did that before. So it says your new text will be available here. It'll take us directly to that link in the sandbox, and we'll see where it shows up. Okay, so it's in the sandbox for PC Bigger for Me. And so it has the stats demo remix. It's got the whole book that we imported. And it's my version now, right? So I could do what I want with it. Shows the contents. I could have reordered and all those numbers would have been there. If we click on a section, it will open. It should show us a little fork symbol here that it means that it's linked, but I don't see that little linking symbol there right now. Usually that would be generated automatically in one of these. Yeah, it doesn't even have the transclude set. I'm not sure why that didn't happen in this library. It could be that that's not been updated in the stats library to automatically set to yes. It does it, I think, in the math library. But anyways, there's more things here that I sometimes change. Like I like to show the TOC, which shows the subsection as a table of contents at the top of the page. I usually would set this at the top of the whole book, because then you can answer a question and have it do it for the whole book at once. But I'll just say yes, yeah, right here, sub pages. So yeah, I do that at the very top of the whole book, and then all of them would have those appear. But normally I don't show this stuff very much. So it's got our, in this case, this is just the chapter, which I probably don't want the table of contents visible for. Oh, well. So in there, you pick a section. And if I go in to look at it, it looks like the normal section in the book. And if I edit it, got my zoom thing on top of that. Okay, there we go. If I edit it, it shows me just the content reuse and gives a little link that's added separately when I do the remixer. It just shows where it's coming from in another tag in case I change this. But I can add extra pages without using the remixer, like I showed you earlier. And you could then use the content reuse to locate something. That was something I was going to show actually. So here we could actually get rid of this if we wanted to. We could add in a new page, or let me just cancel this and add a new page. So if I put in, maybe I wanted to put the exercises in here, which I don't think are here yet. Let's just put that in here. So new, I'm adding it to the page. So it's asking me which thing I want to add. I really don't want to add a book or chapter to a page, but a section, a page would be like the exercise set, create. And it's gonna be similar to what happened earlier. I'll put, oh boy, I don't remember the title, 6.2E, exercises. And then I'll just save it because I want to have these tags automatically populate. And then I'll edit it. And now I can add content reuse. So it's another way to do it other than just using the remixer. I do this once I have a book in place. There is a way to re-remix. I usually use that just right after I first set it up. If I've done a lot of customization, I just tend to not want to do any more remixing. I just like to add things this way. So clicking content reuse lets you locate the material either in someone else's book, maybe in the campus bookshelves, or you can locate it on the bookshelves. And I'm not sure where the exercises are for this, but I'm just gonna oh, there's some. So exercises for OpenStax. I think that was the book we pulled in. This is chapter 6. It's all of them. Oh boy, I'm putting them all here, but this would be a way I could link any with that. Normally I wouldn't put them all here, but you can actually pick subsections though, if there are any, and there are just question subsections here maybe. Oh, no, it's got some, I don't know how it will work, but I could pick a subsection here and it's in the way, sorry. 6.2, so I can just pull that and we'll see what happens. So now it says the content reuse, where it's coming from. If I save it and see what it brought in. Hey, it actually did better than I thought. So it pulled in those exercises from that section. And now they're still linked, but if we wanted to edit these, we could. Normally there'll be a little link here that we could click to fork it, but we can come to options and I could choose, it must be underneath my options here, yep. Could choose forker, and that would allow it to copy to a version that's not in the content reuse mirrored transcluded form. It's actually one I can edit. Should reload the page in a moment if it's actually doing it. It might not like me because I chose a subsection. I think that has not really been implemented well, so I might have to do something else, but we'll see if it worked or not. I often just copy and paste if it didn't work the first time. Yeah, it didn't work because it was a subsection. If I did the whole page, it would have worked to create a copy of it. But it is a little issue that isn't quite working when you do a subsection like I did there. But anyway, that would allow you to bring it in and you can then edit it to your heart's content and have your own version of it. But then any fixes wouldn't be implemented or show up in your version.
I got it. So this is just to keep you from messing with things.
This is
You fork
this is
so
to
that you,
no, this is to prevent unnecessary duplication.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to use a block that's already been built by someone else, there's no reason for you to have a copy of the entire block. You just have a reference to that content. But if you want to edit it, and now you're not preserving all that material, then there is a reason for you to have your own separate copy so that you can edit.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So ideally, you want it to be transcluded or mirrored until you decide to change more than just the chapter and section numbers. So, you know,
So
it's good.
the word transcluded is really just a reference to the fact that we are including blocks from someplace else.
Yeah, yeah, it's a word for mirroring, I guess would be another way to say it. It's or linking, right? It's
Okay.
linking to the source without changing the source, except
Got
you
it.
are able to update any of the section numbers, right? So it actually reflects that nicely. Like
Yeah.
if I'd put this in and call, I could actually change the name here to 6.4e and it would make this 6.4.1 and so forth.
Yeah.
So
Got it. So it just doesn't want you to mess with the content. It allows you to mess with the numbering
yeah,
because it's not changing the root numbering. It's only changing your numbering, but everything else is a mirror image
that's
of the
right.
root. Okay. But if you wanted to mess with the page and, change the instructions and put a different example in or whatever you may want to do, it's going to force you to make a copy.
Well,
Yes.
no,
And then you mess with your own copy, no?
you can insert, as long as you insert around the block,
That's true.
Okay.
you don't
Okay.
have to make a forking is only to say, I want an editable copy of this other material.
That's
Okay.
right.
You can just insert around it. You could put problems before it. You could put problems after.
Okay. Got it.
And then the block still stays the same. If you want to insert content into the middle of it,
Okay.
you have to convert the block from a reference to an actual fork. You have to go from a transclude to a fork.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you want to just copy a portion like I was trying to do here with a subsection that I transcluded, I actually would just go to the original page, edit the page, copy it there, and then paste it in here. But you could also fork the whole page, and then it will let you do the fork here if you did actually linked the whole page instead of just a portion. So that was just a glitch that's not quite working yet.
It's okay.
So,
Yeah,
but I
this has
have
been helpful.
I have a page where in one of the sections where I take a subsection, I transclude in, and then I create my own material for a subsection, and then I transclude in another section below that. So I'm keeping as much as I can of the section from the original book while just editing the portion that I wanted to, or adding the portion. Now, as soon as you add a new subsection and have new figure numbers, it'll mess up your figure numbering scenario, and then I need to fork the whole thing if I want it to be consistent. So
Thank
any
you,
other
Paul.
questions?
Anybody
You're
else have questions? I'm sure we will. Once we get in there and we start messing around, we set our accounts, we get a group going, and we set up the skeleton of our book. I'm sure we'll have more questions.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm glad to help with it, and glad I had answers for at least the questions being asked today. I feel like the apple that's always out in front, or the carrot, is that graded homework problems in WeBWorK, and still waiting for the perfect way to do it, but adapt is certainly a big step in the right direction, especially if you're not married to the WeBWorK grading gradebook, I guess.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you. We're going to talk through with Delmar and see what, some options may be, but it's not, it doesn't stop us from getting started and setting up our LibreTexts and, start embedding our problems and, going that route. So we're ready to get rolling regardless.
Great.
Yeah. Thank you
So I
so
get-
much again. This was so helpful, and I've recorded it, so I'm going to share with the other fellows. Would it be possible? Would you mind if I put it on the WeBWorK Tutorials YouTube channel too? So any WeBWorK community members who are interested, they'll
Yeah.
have access to this?
That's fine. Yeah.
That's okay.
Hopefully I
Wonderful.
didn't say anything crazy, right?
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, I would imagine, and again, I'll talk through with Delmar. I know that we have, some groups working on Calc 1 and Calc 2 and so on. And I know Bianca's here. She's one of the Calc 1 team members. And so they've talked about, just we have OpenStax and we have our WeBWorK problems, just starting to do in LibreText this embedding. Very basic, like just pull in the problem paths. It's kind of like mindless in a way where we're just going to do it and set it up, but then we'll have it. So we may want to have a few teams set up in there to just kind of mirror what we have dev-wise going on at CUNY. So I'll talk through with Delmar what the best way to go is to have like a CUNY thing and then sub teams, or to just have separate sub teams, however he wants to keep track of us with all our permissions.
Right.
Yeah, it'll be up to him.
Yeah, he's already set a few up. So one of them was like Geneseo, one is on Denver. There's I think the Denver Community College.
They're
You may know
amazing.
some of the people there.
Oh yeah,
Um,
Brenda and Brittany and
yep.
James Morski and all of them. They're wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Oh, that's so cool.
very cool.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a
Take
great
care.
day.
Bye, everyone. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.